I'm ready. I'm ready when you are. Good evening and welcome to I got it written down here someplace. Welcome and join us in celebrating the Perseids meteor shower, Mercury in retrograde, and of course, Kurt's birthday. Our next gathering will be on Tuesday, September 17th at this same virtual location. In September, we will have Ask Me Anything session hosted by Kevin, and the main presentation will be Dave Ginsburg on discovering the value and benefits of Apple One, which we'll hear just a little bit more about later tonight. We would like to welcome a couple new members. Bill, is it Kunze? Are you
Kenzie.
still okay? Thank
Kenzie.
you, Kenzie, and Mike Potter from the somewhere in the Midwest that is not snowy at this time. I would ask that everybody see the chat window for a link to the online presenter review poll and kind of keep up with that if you can. And last month we had our virtual door prize was won by Tony Ewing, our own rocket scientist. Congratulations, Tony. Are there any other announcements? Something I've forgotten? Okay. Then I do have and there is the feedback form link. We would suggest that you click on it now. It will open in your browser, and then it'll be there for you to answer at the end of the meeting or tomorrow, whenever you have the opportunity. It's important for us to get the feedback from our membership so we know it really does help us plan. And what else? Are there any for sales or wanted to buy items from the floor?
I've got my iPhone XR.
Yeah. I replied to your email about that,
Yes,
Tommy.
I did what you said. And
Okay. So it now should be ready for sale or giveaway or whatever you're going to do with it without endangering your personal information.
correct.
Okay. So, is there anybody who would be interested in an iPhone XR? And what are you asking for?
Well, I had I ran across a $126 uh one website. I don't know how good these people are.
Yeah, but if it's something that Apple won't even give you any money for in a trade-in.
Actually, I checked. Apple will give him 105 for it.
Oh, okay.
So
So maybe that's your best bet, Tommy,
What's
is
that?
to trade it in for $105. You should be able to just drop by the Apple store and they'll give you a gift certificate or whatever it is they give you. Is that right, Kevin?
yep, you get a
That's
gift
how it
card that you
works.
could use for any future purchase.
Okay. Okay.
One you're willing to pay?
I'm not willing to pay $105. So tonight we have our regular tech update, and we have an accessibility minute, and then we have our Macstock recap with a special guest who is now officially a TMUG member, and that is Mike Potter. And we'll be bringing him on at the end here. Hopefully he hasn't fallen asleep by then. So we're ready to turn it over to Ridge. Ridge, are you ready to take it? Looks like you are. So take it away, Ridge.
Okay. here we go. This includes July and August. So let's see what we've got. Of course, we have software updates. And let me get out of this for a sec and answer some of the scribing stuff. Okay, back to the software updates from the last time we talked about this. 1Password went all the way up, and Adobe did everything that they published. They had a lot of updates, and Affinity that is what you use instead of the Adobe Creative Suite. That was updated. And if you're using BB Edit, and there's Carbon Copy Cloner, which is important for some of us. And then the Firefoxes for Mac and iOS as well, and Google Chrome for the Mac and the iOSs. Graphic converter, if you're using that, went up to 12.2. And if you're using Little Snitch, it went up a couple of times to 604, and Mac Tracker, if you're tracking all of the Macs like I do, that got updated. And if you're doing Windows on your Mac with Parallels, that's got an update. And you can see the rest of those. Probably the most important one there is going to be Spam Sieve and Office for Mac. And Zoom is running right now, 6.0.11. Apple was busy as well. Monterey and Sonoma and Ventura all got updates. And Final Cut Pro and iMovie for the Mac. Safari for your Monterey and Ventura got updated. And of course, iOS had all these updates. And the watch was updated twice. And more from Apple. HomePod, if you have one of those, it got a software update. And you can read what else that's on the screen there. Probably the important things for most of us is the iMovie and iWork apps, the Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. And if you've got one of those wonderful Vision machines from Apple, that's got an update as well. Coming is Sequoia. 2 of them for Sequoia. And 2 for the iOS and Watch and TV OS and Vision and Xcode if you're a programmer. Now they released their third quarter finances. You can see the numbers on the right, and you can see how it was spread out among what Apple has. Its services and iPhone were the biggest contributors. They had a quarterly record in their total revenue. So there's supposed to be some sort of an Apple event coming, scheduled called Ready, Set, Capture. And they have this picture leaked, but we don't know what's going to happen at it. Supposed to be September 10th. Now, Apple's back to school program is still in effect. You'll get gift cards if you buy one of these Apple devices in blue. You get the most gift card for a iMac and a MacBook Pro or the Air. Now, if you want to know if you can run this Sequoia operating system, Apple says you got to have these machines. So take a look and see if your machine is located there. And if it is, you can run Sequoia. Now, there's a new Apple patent application that was found. by the folks that watch these things. And it's an application for a Macintosh contained in a keyboard, and the title of the patent application is Computer in an Input Device. And I guess all the parts of all the chips and stuff are at the bottom segment down there, where they got places for you to put chips and so forth, and circuit boards. Now, here's something for those of us who still like to work with optical discs. The super drive is no longer available from Apple itself. So now the only place you're going to get one of those is if a third party still has some stock left. And if you want to know about artificial intelligence requirements, what do you need to do that with your Apple stuff? If you have an iPhone, you got to have a 15 Pro or later. And the iPads, Airs, and Pros with the M1 and M2 chips in them. And if you've got an Apple laptop, you got to have one of the ones with the M1, 2, or 3 CPUs in them. So you can see all of those, and you can take a look to see if you're going to be able to run Apple AI. This, I thought, was a very interesting new Apple store in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Of course, the rest of it looks just like most other Apple stores, as you can see. And here's what the Windows update disaster was all about on July 19th. You can read this along with me. They had an update they pushed, and it caused a massive IT outage all over the world. It also grounded all the aircraft of United Delta and American Airlines. It shut down many TV networks and so on. There was a defect in a single content update for Windows PCs that was pushed on that morning and wreaked havoc on Windows computers around the world and resulted in the dreaded blue screen of death on all clients connected to the PC host, rendering the machines unable to run. Be started. Of note, Macs were not impacted. They supposedly identified the problem and released a fix, but it'll be a while before things get working normally again, because all of the affected PCs are in recovery mode and unable to reboot. And a workaround fix was posted on Reddit behind the login page to Reddit. And you got to apply that fix separately to each PC. And many users may not be able to find it behind the home page. So aren't we glad we use Macs? How about for nostalgia here? The suit Jobs wore when he revealed the Mac and posed in it an ad. It's going up for auction and expected to bring 30 grand. And also they found a vintage Apple Mac pin in the pocket and the original wooden hanger for that suit. And here's what they look like. How about the rumors coming around? They're still talking about maybe a foldable large screen, all screen MacBook Pro with an M5 chip. Maybe next year or the year after. And next year, maybe all MacBooks are going to have M5 chips in them. And they're all still talking about a new iPad mini. Maybe they'll have an OLED screen next year. And then they think maybe the MacBook lineup is going to be, the entire lineup is going to be updated later this year with M4 CPUs. How about the Mac Studio getting an M3 Max or M3 Ultra CPU? Because all they got right now is the M2. And there's another online rumor that the M4 Mac Mini coming later this year may be redesigned to become the same size as the current Apple TV. And there are more online rumors that Apple might release an iMac with a 32-inch screen and an M4 CPU later this year or next year or so forth. That's it for this part of the presentation. And now we'll look at the items of security interest. Google has updated Chrome for both the Mac and iOS, and you can see the number of fixes. Mozilla updated Firefox for the Mac, and that had the most fixes. Microsoft updated Office, and it's got 5 security fixes. And some other software that had security fixes. 1Password 8.10.36 had a security fix, according to them. And Apple was busy with security patches, and you can see how many patches, security patches they made for all of their software. So if you're running Sonoma, Ventura, or Monterey, you probably ought to make sure you're updated. And iOS versions as well. How about some cybercrime news? Your iCloud keychain is being silently enabled by Apple without notification or permission. And in the latest versions of Mac OS, Ventura, and Sonoma, it's active. iCloud keychain copies your passwords into Apple's cloud, and in the past you had to personally turn it on, but now it is on. And we have another report that Macs are vulnerable to malware, but not as badly as the situation in the world of Windows. And you can see that in 2021, 8 malware families were identified. In 2022, that rose to 13. And in 2023, 21 new Mac targeting malware families were discovered. But that doesn't mean we should panic about the Mac malware situation. Apple has measures at the operating system level to protect against the worst threats. Gatekeeper and Xprotect. And if you want more help against malware, there is always the Macworld Online top pick, Indigo Max Internet Security for a monthly fee. This MacPaw, an Apple developer, is warning about malicious malware that impersonates itself as MacPaw's Clean My Mac X. The real software includes antivirus code. And while investigating various cybersecurity issues, they came across a file named Clean My Mac that was not the genuine article, that had several versions of malware inside it, such as all those. These malware packages can steal password and personal data and display unwanted ads. Be sure to get the real Clean My Mac X directly from MacPaw's website. July 12th, AT&T disclosed a massive data breach that affects nearly all of its customers. AT&T says the stolen records were downloaded illegally on a third-party cloud platform and include every call and text record for every AT&T cellular customer from May 1st, 2022 to October 31st, as well as on January 2nd, 2023. They were clear that the content of the calls and text was not exposed, but the hackers now have a record of every call or text made or received, along with counts and call durations for some calls. And this affects more than just AT&T customers. Anyone who called or texted an AT&T number including a landline service during this time, would show up as part of the records. Names, contents, text, other personal information, not part of that data that was hacked. Security experts reported August 1st a new threat that spreads through Google-sponsored ads in an effort to steal Bitcoin, and the malware poses as Mac Screen Recording Act, Loom, TunnelBlick, Figma, Firefox, Chrome, Zoom, and several other apps. It poses as those apps. And they believe this malware campaign is run by a group that call themselves Crazy Evo. When you're searching for Loom on Google, sponsored ads appear that look legitimate, even displaying the legitimate URL for the app at the top of the ad. But the actual URL for the link is a near perfect replica and takes the user to a fraudulent site that has been constructed to fool you. The fake site prominently displays a download button that saves a malicious file with stealer malware on your Mac. Several other apps are being used by them to fool the unwary internet browser user. When the malware attack is executed, the malware tries to gain access to the user's cryptocurrency. So it seems that if you have nothing to do with cryptocurrency, you probably won't be negatively affected. As always, the easiest way to avoid malware is to use only legitimately acquired apps from trusted sources such as the App Store. And they make security checks, or directly from the developer themselves. Cisco Talos recently uncovered security holes in several Microsoft apps for Mac. They can potentially let the bad guys spy on your camera and other system components. They claim to have found 8 vulnerabilities in Microsoft apps for Mac OS, including Word, Outlook, Excel, OneNote, and Teams. Those vulnerabilities allow the bad guys to inject malicious code, exploiting permissions and entitlements granted by the users. Best to be careful and aware when using those Microsoft apps on your Mac. So don't let unknown people use your Mac and keep suspicious USB drives away. So thanks for your attention. And of course, the overall moral is stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Reg.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Rich.
all the work that goes into that. Our next event
Hey,
of the
Bob,
evening.
before we go on to the next, I got something to say about updates.
Yeah.
Apple re-released iOS 17.6.1. So if you updated your iPhone, if it's an iPhone before iPhone 15, you need to check your software updates and update it again. It's an over-the-air update. It takes like 15 minutes.
But if you have
If you have,
if you have an
if
iPhone 15, this doesn't affect this.
they say that you have to download it from Apple and install it manually, but I wouldn't bother if you're on an iPhone 15 personally. I'd wait
Okay.
for the next one to come out.
Okay. Yeah, my phone says it's up to date, and it is a 15. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Next, we have our accessibility minute with Chris Wesselman. It looks like he's been posting links in the chat already to go along with his presentation. So if you're ready, Chris, take it away.
Let me unmute here. I did, in fact, post some links. I think Melissa pointed out that my, is this the right screen? No, that's the old Olympic screen. Okay, that's not it. Okay, let me see if I can find that. It's always a joy trying to find the screen to share. Of course, we've got about 96 windows open. There are a couple of things I wanted to show you guys tonight. One is gosh, if I can find this here, is a new YouTuber I found who is doing iPhone stuff for seniors, and I actually really like it. And of course, this depends a lot on your own style. What we all have our styles that we like with YouTube, people we like or people we don't. And it obviously makes sense to follow those people that I like this guy because he doesn't talk too fast. And, there are ways to slow down. Some of these talkers, as you may know, are really, they're like the FedEx ads, and it's kind of hard to follow what they're saying. Um, but this guy was really good. Gee, I apologize. I am not finding this window. It's not going to be much of a minute if I can't find it. Uh, let's see. It's in Safari. I wish Zoom would make this process a little bit easier. It is. Okay, so that's the window. And
While you're looking for that, Chris, I have
yeah, go ahead,
a
Bob.
sort of announcement. And we may be getting closer to having a venue for an in-person social meeting coming up. We had one of our TMUG members contact me today, and she has an in with the Methodist Church on Speedway downtown or in town. And I'm going to go meet her and look at the place tomorrow, and we may have a place to do something in person. So that's what I have for that. Chris, are you finding what you're looking for?
Boy, I'm sure looking, but I don't know why my Safari windows aren't showing up. Okay, well, here's a start. That's Silver Halide. Okay, I think this is it. Okay, share
You are
that.
not currently sharing your screen.
Okay, can you see this Rich Bolin
Yes.
page? Okay, so that's Rich. His link is in the chat. I've listened to several of his. Like I said, I like his style. It's a good cadence, and he is not super technical. So, but for all the rest of us, those of you guys who are, the consultants and stuff, he's probably going to be too slow or covering stuff that maybe is too basic, but he does do a good job covering stuff. And along the same lines, I have also subscribed to iPhone Life, which I'm going to use for iOS 18 because it is so different. I went ahead and subscribed, and I included some of those links tonight. But unfortunately, as Melissa found out, they're paywalled because I had actually signed in. So I don't think those links will work for you guys. Now, can you see the second thing that says enabling Zoom? Or are you still on Rich's page, or do you see enabling Zoom at this point?
I see enabling Zoom.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay. This is something, in fact, I'm going to use it right now to zoom my screen. I use this every hour of every day that I am on my M1 Mac. And basically what it is if you go into accessibility and zoom, and you can set up whichever, the default is the control key, which I've gotten used to over the years. But if you have a scroll wheel mouse, it allows you to zoom in and zoom out. And having a modifier key is important because normally you want to scroll up and down your web pages with your scroll wheel. But, being a photographer, I use this constantly. And I really want to dwell on this to make sure everybody, if this is something you can use, can go ahead and do this because it is. Thank you, Siri. I don't know if you heard that. Siri is making an announcement for me for my calendar. But anyway, accessibility, zoom, and I use the control key. and then I can zoom in and out, and it is fantastic. If I get emails from PCs and it's like 4-point type, all I need to do is zoom in and read it. I don't need to change the size or anything else. And it's the number one tip accessibility thing that I use all the time. So anybody have any questions on this? I put a link in the chat. It should work, and it should take you to one of these web pages. And if not, you can just search on accessibility and scrolling. And in fact, if you go into system preferences and in the search field, which nowadays we really recommend because they've moved stuff around a couple of different times depending upon which operating system you're on. Things are going to be in different places and harder to find. I just search now. I go in and just put in Zoom and search, and it takes me right there. So then I guess let me run through the rest of these guys here. This one is also, okay, this is a little bit more close up on how the Zoom situation looks. And this is from somebody else's presentation. And there is another link I put in there, and I bet this isn't going to work, but it's talking about your medical ID, which is in the health app. The health app is just a wonderful thing, and that's something we could spend some time on if people are interested. I use it to track medications, and it really helps because there's some medications I take twice a week, and I don't always do them on the same day. And so I can just track. It's a very useful app. It's got, like a lot of things, Apple, it's probably got more in there than we'll ever need. But, you know, if you kind of pick and choose and find the stuff that works for you. And let me just see if there was anything else. Yeah, I think that's it. But that, you know, see if you on Rich Boland's site, if it's something you can use. And on the scroll wheel with the control key, what can I say? I use it every hour of every day. A lot of times in photography stuff, I won't bother zooming in. I'll just do, because I have a 4K monitor, and I just use the scroll wheel to zoom in, and I've got plenty of resolution to see what I'm looking at. So anyway, that's it for this month. Any questions?
Thank you,
Okay.
Chris.
Sorry?
I said, thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chris.
Chris.
Appreciate it. There's a wealth of stuff available in the accessibility area, and we should all troll in there and see if there's something that helps us. So next, we're going to go on to the main presentation, which is to let everybody know about what happened at Macstock. Last month, we didn't have a meeting, and it wasn't because we were all off cruising someplace. We were hard at work at Macstock. And let me share my screen here. Okay. So here we are. This is the Macstock logo background. And this was Macstock 8, even though it was the 10th year of Macstock. I won't try to explain that, but it had something to do with lockdown. And this recap is brought to you by the Tucson Macintosh User Group. The road to Macstock, to borrow something from Chuck Joyner. Every year, I have Roger come along eastbound as my co-pilot, and we keep trying to find something new to discover along the way. There's an awful lot. We've found many little bits of Route 66. Last year, we found a automotive and transportation museum not far from the venue. And this year, we're again looking for a side trip. We came across the Illinois Railway Museum. It's only about 20 minutes or so from Crystal Lake, where the venue is, or about 20 minutes from Woodstock, Illinois. Uh, Mike, have you ever been there?
Oh, I have. It's amazing. Yeah, I absolutely love it. All the classic locomotives as well as passenger cars that many of them you can wander through and explore as if you were a passenger at the time it was on the rails.
That's right. And here's Roger educating himself with the placard from this Amtrak train. They have a whole station from the era of when train transport was the big thing. And I think they probably had it taken apart, moved to their location and rebuilt it there. And this particular photograph is important for those of you who have lived in southern Arizona for a long time. This, my friends, is a snowblower. And it's one hell of a snowblower. It can take care of an awful lot of snow. And here I am, dumbfounded by the ingenuity of the train crews. I'm standing in an old caboose and taking a picture of this lamp. This lamp, although it's electrified now, it really was an oil lamp. And what I found, it doesn't show in this picture, but the crew had taken a pie pan and mounted it upside down on the ceiling. So they get a little reflection, a little more light, and protect the caboose from burning down. Now we're going to move on to the venue in the hotel. This time the hotel was the venue. No commute other than an elevator and walking down the hall. The venue was the Ilara Conference Center, which was part of the hotel. Here's one of the conference rooms, and ours looked very much like this, although the tables, I think, were arranged somewhat differently. We didn't have need for that many tables. Here's the front of the 5-story hotel, a Holiday Inn. And here's a picture of a typical king bedroom. And I had one like this, only this one has a much better view. You can actually see some greenery and some stuff out there. Mine must have been lower down. We were on the 3rd floor, and all I could see was the roof of the conference center with all of its air handling and vents for the kitchen. And Crystal Lake, Illinois it ain't Chicago, but it's in the same state, and it's inconveniently located to downtown Chicago. If you really feel the need to go down to the Loop, you can go down there. How long of a trip is it, Mike, from Crystal Lake to the Loop on a good day?
Driving or by train? Because you can take the train down there in just about an hour, and the station is what, 30 minutes from the hotel? No,
Okay.
not 30 minutes, like 5 minutes from the hotel.
Okay, that's probably the way you'd want to do it.
Yeah, that's
Now,
absolutely the way you'd want to do it.
As a guy who grew up in Milwaukee, my view of Chicago is a little jilted. So take that into consideration. Here's the Chicago River. And the Apple store in downtown Chicago is along the river, if I remember correctly. And I understand the Chicago River has not caught on fire for many years now. And the Bean, which you see in almost every TV show that is set in Chicago sooner or later. This was a 3-day affair. It starts out on Friday. On Friday, there were 4 90-minute workshops. And it turns out that Mike was able to twist some arms and got OWC to sponsor the lunch. So that was included. thanks to OWC, one of our favorite places to buy high quality Mac stuff. The first workshop was led by Allison Sheridan and her Mac Tiny Tips. She had a whole series of little tips, little one trick pony kind of tips for all kinds of Mac to keep things moving along more simply and to get you doing your stuff more quickly. Allison's website is podfeet.com, and there's a list of her podcasts. Sorry, Mike. Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to get you off of there. The next one was journaling, a path to personal growth with Mike Schmitz. Mike Schmitz, easy for me to say. He's a productivity expert, and he feels that journaling can help you grow personally and make your life more productive. And there's his picture. Next, we have our friend Dr. Marty, who's here with us tonight, and he is a TMUG member. And his workshop was on AI, artificial intelligence for peak productivity. And he graced us with a AI presentation at DoubleClick at TMUG last year in December. And he is going to be coming back to visit us again in December. A little more on that later. The last workshop was given by Mike Potter, who is also a new TMUG member. Welcome, Mike. And here is his presentation was about Ecamm Live. Now, if you are doing a lot of video production, you probably want to know more than just the basics of getting started with Ecamm. If not, well, this one might not be for you. And his website is Macstock Conference and Expo, and his podcast is for Mac Eyes Only. Saturday had 7 shorter presentations, and we're going to go through those pretty quickly. Mike Schmidt came up first, and this was using mind maps. Mind maps are applications that allow you to get your thoughts together on screen and put everything down, and then you can move them around so you can kind of see how they work together. I did do a mind map to put this presentation together because there are a lot of different things going on in this presentation, and I wanted to try to keep them straight and hopefully not miss anybody. So that's MikeSchmitz.com, and he has podcasts Focused, Bookworm, and Intentional Family. And then our friend Jill McKinley came on with a presentation about Notion. It helps you get organized and get everything done so you can be more productive. Jill was with us last January, and she's going to come back again in January of 2025 and present Notion to us in January. There you see her LinkedIn page, and her podcast are Start with Small Steps and Small Steps with God. Dave Ginsburg, he came on and he gave a wonderful talk about the value and benefits of Apple One. He talked about all of the services, the music and the TV and the arcade and the news, iCloud and Fitness Plus and all that. And he really kind of made it come alive Unfortunately, I think this means I'm going to be subscribing to Apple One. I know there are some people here in the audience who subscribe to that. I don't want to mention any names, Melissa, but Dave's podcast is In Touch with iOS, and that's his website as well. Dave will be coming to visit TMUG virtually in September and presenting us with the value and benefits of Apple One. I think that's something that probably everybody here could benefit from. Next up was Jeff Gamet, and he wanted to get everybody started with their smart home strategy and get everything. He gave us a lot of information about how to get things together. And in his own inimitable way and self-deprecating way, you see the last paragraph, the last sentence there. He wants you to learn from his mistakes. And he doesn't have his own podcast, but he appears on other podcasts quite often. And if you listen to podcasts, you're going to hear him. Following Jeff was Kirshen Sia, and it kind of dovetailed nicely. Jeff talked about starting out with automation, and Kirsten talked about using that automation with using that stuff with automation and helping make your smart home even smarter and more responsive to you. Then we had Michael Eisenberg, a lawyer, and I try not to hold that against him. And he had a presentation about AI-powered analysis for shortcuts and automations. And again, that kind of fitted in with Jeff and Kirsten and how to use ChatGPT to create Apple scripts. And his podcast is The Tech Savvy Lawyer. Rounding out the end of day 2 was Dave Hamilton. Dave is a terrific podcaster, and he is very, very good at the production of podcasts. And his talk was about how to do it in real time. If you're a podcaster, you probably want to watch Dave's presentation. And so we're going to move on from there. And next should be Sunday, day 3, the final day. 6 presentations and the Macstock Short Film Festival. Allison came back and she at the top of the day, and she was getting your Mac to work for you. Basically, her point was you need to keep trying new things and reach and stretch your brain to keep it working at full function. And Allison will be joining TMUG in November and presenting a bunch of her tiny tips to us in November. So that means you should watch us in September and November and December and January and keep coming back for more. See, this is the kind of thing that we did there. We're twisting arms and trying to get these well-known national people to come and help TMUG out with presentations. Then we had Brett Terpstra on Level Up Your Inbox. Brett, his podcast is Overtired. This is a guy who probably receives several hundred emails a day, and he has worked on a way to make it work for him. Now, when I have what I think is a busy day for emails, it's probably I get 20 emails and 35 spams. So I don't know if I need all this extra stuff that Brett talked about, but if you do, this is the guy to talk to. And then Brian Flanagan Arthurs, some may notice that he's wearing an Arizona State hat from Phoenix. He's a Phoenix kind of guy, and he really, really likes sports. And his talk was how to cut the cord from the cable system or satellite and still be able to watch all the sports that you want to do. Now, this might be if you're a sports fanatic or really, really trying to cut the cable, this might be the talk for you. And then Marty is back with guiding others to troubleshoot with ease. This was a wonderful palate cleansing, fun presentation by Marty, and he's going to come and recap that for TMUG in December. His podcasts are Vision Profile, Circular Firing Squad, and I think there's another one. Are you still with us here, Marty? You might have stepped out for the moment.
Yeah, Bob. Yeah, Tech Savvy Professor.
Okay. Thank
This
you,
is
Marty.
another podcast that I do. Thanks.
We're looking forward to seeing you in December and learning how to troubleshoot with ease. Then we had something completely different. And now for something completely different. Kelly Gamont, who is a podcaster and let's see, somebody described her as like the Energizer Bunny. If you wind her up and wind her up the key and let her go, she just keeps going and going and going. She had something really, really different, and this is going to require some photos afterwards. She wanted to prove to people that you can do something with your hands, and that's going to occupy part of your brain, allowing the other part to work on other things. Turns out she brought enough crochet hooks and little balls of yarn for everybody in the audience. And she wanted to teach everybody how to crochet, because this is something that she will do while she's watching TV or reading other things online and so forth. And here we have some people trying to work on it. We have Dave Hamilton and Pilot Pete there trying to crochet, and other people trying to crochet, and there's Allison in the background helping somebody get started. And surprise, surprise, it was mostly the women in the audience who were serving as extra helpers to get everybody to do that. Hello, Doriana. And here's some more people that were just really enjoying the whole process. Here we have Chuck Joyner and Dave Ginsberg getting instruction from Chuck's partner. Here is Guy Cyril of the My Mac podcast, who's just about reaching his breaking point trying to learn to crochet. He is self-described as the world's largest 6-year-old, and he was showing it here. Cletus, is that you in the background of this one? And other people trying to learn to crochet as well? Here
Do
we
I,
have...
do I look frustrated? Yes.
And here we have some more personal instruction by Kelly. And was our host, Mike Potter. He was taking a picture of me as I was taking a picture of him. And we kind of went to the back of the room and quietly said, I'm sure glad we got other jobs to do, because now we don't have to try to learn to crochet. Then we had was Chuck Joyner and Jeff Gamet. Chuck Joyner of MacVoices.com. And maximizing your Apple dollar. Learning how to get the most bang for your buck when you're buying Apple stuff. I haven't talked to Chuck directly, but I hope to get him to come on and give this talk to us in the months to come. But that might take a while, as he is busy every Tuesday night recording Mac Voices. Excuse me, the day ended with Wally Cherwinski's Macstock Short Film Festival. However, for some reason, Wally, who's a Canadian, was unable to make it to Macstock. Maybe he got caught trying to bring wool blankets and maple syrup across the border, but I'm not sure. And Chuck Joyner stepped in for him and was the host of the film festival. The film festival is where everybody is allowed to enter a short film. By short, he means like 2 minutes or less, and showing off the creativity of everybody there. It's always a lot of fun. We had one submitted by Roger a couple times back of our trip to Macstock. And again, you might want to watch this one. And there were some extracurricular activities as well. Each evening, a group of a selection of the people would get together and go out for dinner and descend upon some local restaurant and terrorize the wait staff and have a really good time. The Mac Geek Gab podcast with Pilot Pete and Dave Hamilton was recorded live. And there was an Apple Vision Pro informal workshop after hours with our own buddy Marty. And then there was karaoke on Saturday night with Kelly Gumont. There may have been other activities that were too late for this old guy. So it really was a good program all weekend long. Here's a picture of, I think, all or maybe almost all of the presenters. But we must not, we would be remiss to not remember the volunteers. I know that this is Mike's dad. And is that who's helping your dad? Is that your daughter?
Actually, that's nobody volunteering. I don't know who those people are.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know who they
Well,
are.
let's pretend that they're the volunteers working
We'll,
at
we'll say that that's my dad and my wife, but let's not tell my wife that.
working at the welcome table, helping everybody get signed in. And we must not forget Brian, who was there, and he made sure that every presenter was thoroughly set up with a working microphone and connected to the presentation system. He was there like the whole time. But then there was also Roger, who during Macstock probably worked more minutes than anybody else, even Mike. But Mike worked really hard before and really hard after and all year long getting this all set up. And here Mike and Roger are planning out how to best make the presentations look. Here's a few crowd shots for us. Allison Sheridan again, Marty in the background, Chuck Joyner, Guy Cyril. And Dave Hamilton and Pilot Pete. And then there's Mike, the guy who put all of this together. And I certainly want to say thank you, Mike Potter. Without you, Macstock wouldn't be necessary. Pardon me. I mean, wouldn't be possible. And there's an awful lot here, and I went through it as fast as I probably could. And what I want to do is tell you, if you see stuff here that gee, I wish I had been there to see all of this good stuff being presented. Yes, you should be. Now you can work toward joining Macstock next year, or you can see what was presented through the Macstock digital pass. I am going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'm going to turn it over to Mike to tell us a little bit about the digital pass. I know that Kurt, who couldn't make it this year, has already purchased the digital pass, and I think that a few others of you probably ought to purchase it as well, because there's an awful lot of value there. Is every presentation going to be important to each and every one of you? No. But there's certainly enough there to make it worthwhile to you. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike to tell us about the digital pass, and if there is a Macstock 9 on the horizon. Probably no information about that yet. Tell us about it, Mike.
Okay. Is there a Macstock 9? Well, we'll see. I don't have any dates on that yet. I have been working with the hotel to try to set dates, but we don't have anything locked in yet. I did want to go back for just a moment, though, if you don't mind, Bob. At the very beginning of the meeting, you mentioned this survey, and I noticed that I'm listed on the survey and people can rate me, which I really appreciate for my very first time attending a meeting, that I can be rated. So, in an effort to ingratiate myself with at least a handful of you, so I get some fives here, I just wanted to say, Marty, absolutely the best presenter we've ever had at Macstock. Roger, without you, the digital pass wouldn't be possible. The tech desk work that Roger does is absolutely invaluable. Bob touched on it for a moment, and I say this with all seriousness. When Roger stepped up, what was it, last year, Roger, or the year before? I can't. Last year, I think it was. You stepped up, and I knew at that time I could never let him go. I mean, he's just so incredibly valuable to the weekend. And Bob is right. He put in more time that weekend volunteering than anybody. Thank you, Roger. And Bob may not know this yet, but he's going to be one of the official ambassadors for Macstock next year. Bob is one of those folks that when new people are attending, and we had quite a few new attendees this year, when new people attend, he's there at the registration desk after they check in, uh, introducing himself, asking them what they do, what their interests are, showing them where to sit, what goes on during the weekend. Uh, in fact, there are several Bobs who help out all weekend, and Janet, my wife, has taken to calling them the Bob Squad. So my dad is one of them. Bob Wood is the one of the others. So thank you, Bob. That's very, very helpful to be there and guide people through finding out what Macstock is all about before they step into the auditorium. And real quick, I did want to thank Chris too for that reference to Rich Boland's YouTube page. I am definitely going to share that. That is a very, very valuable reference, and I wasn't aware of it before, but I have several clients that are going to absolutely eat that up. In fact, I'm going to send it to my dad too. I think he's going to really like that channel. So thank you, Chris, for sharing that. Let's see. So what am I talking about? Oh, the digital pass. Yeah, Bob asked if I could come on and just take a couple minutes to tell you what the digital pass was. Bob did an amazing job introducing you to all the talks for Saturday and Sunday. There were 13 total talks spread out over the 2 days. We did have the workshop as well. The digital pass includes the Saturday and Sunday talks, those 45-minute talks. I do say on the website it's available approximately 30 days after Macstock comes to a close. I am just wrapping up the edits on Saturday's talks, and I'm going to get those uploaded beginning tomorrow, actually. Um, and the reason I'm a little over 30 days is because there was some issues with the audio. So I've been combining audio from the cameras with the audio from the recordings and kind of it's actually turning out really, really well, but it took a little bit of extra effort. So a little bit longer than the 30 days after, but it's all 7 sessions from Saturday, all 6 sessions from Sunday, and probably the Film Fest as well. I usually include the Film Fest, and I anticipate including that again this year too. Um, and it's on demand, and there's no time limit on it. If you have the digital pass, you can go back and watch those talks anytime you want to. We first started offering the digital pass in 2018 and have offered it every year since, including the years where it was pretty much a necessity, 2020, 2021, and so on. And you guys know what happened there. Um, but that's about it. It's a great way to catch up or to recap Macstock weekend. If you do have a weekend pass, Bob, Roger, Marty, Cletus, those of you who were there in person, the digital pass is included with the weekend pass so that you don't have to pick that up extra. It's just something that you can go back and rewatch the talks after the weekend is over. And if you do pick up the digital pass, it's a great way to watch some of these talks that Bob recapped a short while ago. Um, and yeah, they're all going to be on there. I'm doing one thing a little differently this year. In the past, I included all the in-between talk stuff, and the feedback I got was that wasn't really necessary. So I'm trimming them all down to just the talks themselves, as well as Brian's intro, because Brian just did a phenomenal job emceeing this year as well. So that is the digital pass. I did want to mention too, Bob had mentioned everyone's podcasts and had links to them and everything. If you go to the Macstock website and under the conference menu, if you go to Saturday and Sunday sessions, as well as the Friday workshop sessions, but if you go to Saturday and Sunday sessions, every one of our speakers is listed there, and there are links to their websites and or podcasts and other ways to get a hold of them, social media and whatnot. So if you are interested in following up with any of them, that's a great way to grab their info as well. If they gave it to me, I would put things like their Zitter handles or Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube channels or whatever they told me that they wanted to share with everyone. That's there along with their bios. So one thing I wanted to mention about the digital pass, and Bob is probably going to ask me about this if I fail to mention, how much does it cost? The digital pass is regularly $99, which works out to be about $7.50 a talk, something like that. But I did create a coupon code for TMUG. I did not tell Bob I was going to do this. The coupon code is TMUG 25 off. And if you use that when purchasing your digital pass, you get $25 off your digital pass. So that makes it just around, I think I did the math on it, just around $5.75 a talk. So
if one of us wanted to get the digital pass, how would we go about it?
How would you go about it? Well, thanks for asking, Bob. I feel like we're in an infomercial here. Why, thanks, Bob. I appreciate you asking. No, you can go to max.conferenceandexpo.com or max.conference.com. And right on the homepage, there is a button to purchase a digital pass, and that will take you to where you need to be. If by some chance you miss that button, in the menu at the top, there's the Macstock Shop menu, and underneath that is digital passes. And so if you click on that, the Macstock 8 digital pass is listed along with the previous year's digital passes. But
And would that be found at Macstock Conference and Expo.com?
it would be found at max.conferenceandexpo.com. Yes, Bob, thanks.
We didn't rehearse this at all.
No, not at all. No, we really didn't. Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it.
It was my desire to present basically just a tiny little bit about each presentation. I don't want to give the presentation. I couldn't give the presentations, but if there is some of those that would be of value to you, I would certainly urge you to get the digital pass, and you could watch it again and again and again. So Roger's nodding his head. I'm sure that Kurt is as well, because he's already purchased his digital pass. Are there any questions about Macstock or about any questions for Mike?
I would like to add that Bob Wood spent a lot of time back in the corner of the conference room with two tables full with Apple nostalgia and paraphernalia, and did a great job of finding new homes for that, as well as promoting membership in TMUG, and you can see some of the results of that right here. So he was a busy guy.
Can I make a comment on the experience? Because I think you did a wonderful job, Bob, of recapping what kind of things people can learn by being at Macstock, and also you can learn this stuff and you can see the content with a digital pass. But if there is any way, if and when a Macstock 9 occurs, if there's any way you can find the time to set aside the weekend and to come up, it's really a very open community for people. And you get a different sense of it by being there and having that experience, in addition to also getting the content. And you can get training from a lot of different places. This is a good place to get it from because there's some good speakers and they're entertaining and you'll enjoy them. But you get the community sense by being together through the whole experience, going to dinners, meeting people at breakfast, sitting and having side conversations with folks. And that is an experience that I would love to have everybody in this group have.
I could agree more, Marty. As Chuck Joyner often says, you can come to Macstock and not know anybody when you're at any level of ability. And if you will leave there with a whole bunch of friends, because we're all in this together and nobody gets excluded and everybody is welcome.
Yeah, and it's more than having friends. It's having a collective experience.
Here.
Where there's a group of us in the room, all with the same sort of desires and interests. And that's different than just, again, the content is really good. You can watch it online, do the digital pass for this year. But next year, if you can come, you have that, plus you also have this collective experience.
Yeah,
Very much.
You're absolutely right, Marty, and that's a fantastic point. The one thing that I wish I could reproduce with the digital pass, and I just can't, is that in-person experience where while you're listening to a talk, you're having a side conversation with the person next to you about what was just mentioned on stage, or you continue that conversation in the hallway with someone who was sitting across the room. And now you're finding out that, you know, what someone picked up from the talk, you may have missed, but what you picked up, they may have missed. And now you've got this, as you said, this collective experience that you can't get that with the digital pass. You can rewatch it, and you can learn from it, but you can't have that in-person uh, learning experience. That was a long pause to say learning experience, but you,
Yeah, it's more than the one-on-one that you're having with somebody else. It's the one-on-ones that everybody's having in the room that
yeah,
make it a collective experience, which is
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
The
very
hallway
cool.
track is as important as the rest of the presentations and so forth. You're going to get started with the presentations, but talking to other people about it, you're going to get even more out of it. Okay, we have somebody here who says that Diana says she's been waiting for the digital pass to be live. It looks like she was a purchaser of the digital pass last year, and she's waiting for it again this year. And Melissa says that she misses taking selfies with Macstockers, not stalkers, not stalkers.
Melissa is a Macstock presenter.
Yes, she
She's a
was.
Macstock alum. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that concludes most of the evening tonight, with the exception of I'm going to ask Mike to do it because he's never been at a meeting before. Mike, I'm going to ask you to ask your S lady to pick a random number between 1 and 28, and that'll give us our door prize winner for the month.
All right. I'm going to mute this so I don't set everybody off. All right.
Right.
All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
It's 13.
13 is Alexis Garrett. Alexis, I will be getting in touch with you, and you'll be getting the door prize, which is a Apple gift card in the amount of $30. So you will, in essence, have the next year of your TMUG membership for free. And if that covers it for everybody, I think we're going to say goodnight.
Thank you,
Good
Bob.
night, everyone.
Thank you, TMUG.
Good night, everybody.
Great meeting everybody.
Good night, all.
Good night. Good night.